The Power of Agile, hosted by Nagarro.
Welcome to the Power of Agile. In this episode, we'll be diving into the next evolution of organizational adaptability, the Fluidic Organization. It's a dynamic, human-centered approach that goes beyond traditional Agile, one that embraces constant flow, learning, and responsiveness at every level of the organization. We'll unpack why Agile frameworks are reaching their limits, what makes fluidic organizations fundamentally different, and how Nagarro is pioneering this transformation through tailored, sustainable change models. Because while Agile was the past, fluidic is the future. And on that note, I'd like to welcome Mika to the show.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. Awesome to be here again with you. Again, flipping sides.
Yeah, exactly. We must stop doing this. No, it's a pleasure to have you, Mika. So let's get stuck into this then. And for starters, let's get into what the Fluidic Organization is.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think Fluidic Organization is Nagarro's interpretation of what you would refer to as business agility or enterprise agile, right? So even enterprise agile used to be one of Nagarro's taglines in the past, right? And I think we're bringing that to a new level. And when you say Fluidic Organization, it's our interpretation of that approach to the whole organization. So as we figured in the past, agile teams are a good starting point, but in order to truly leverage the benefits of being adaptive, that needs to take into account the whole organization, right? From how you set strategy, how you fund and budget things, how you structure teams, and how quickly you can change gears when it comes to processes and workflows and all of that.
Yes.
And I think we at Nagarro have drafted a particular approach to that. And we call that Fluidic Organization, right?
Okay.
And that's working very well for us. And we think at that point in time, it's time to bring it to our clients as well and have them also reap the same benefits as we.
I think so. Yeah, given the way the IT landscape is changing as well. So tell me, why do businesses need it now more than ever? Is this due to some sort of changes already? Have you seen something in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So with all the crisis around the world that's going on and the instability in supply chains and the wars that are going on, I think organizations need to come up more than ever with some kind of resiliency towards the environment, right? Mm-hmm. And the best counter tactic to all the changing circumstances is being adaptive and responsive, right?
Right.
And not only in certain departments or only in IT, but as a whole organization, right?
Okay.
So that you deal with new competitors, new tech, new crisis situations, and as whole organization, you need to be able to shift gears very, very quickly, right? And we have some ideas how you can achieve that. I guess that's what we'll talk about in the next couple of minutes.
Certainly. So obviously you mentioned the Fluidic Organization and how Nagarro sees this. I'm curious, are there any pillars or guiding principles that make up Nagarro's idea of the Fluidic Organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically we drafted the whole approach or mindset around 5 guiding principles.
Okay.
I'll just quickly go through them. I think the first one and most important one is being responsive. And that's what Agile anyway is all about, right?
Yeah.
So this time taking it to the enterprise level with all departments, all processes, all strategies involved.
I see.
Being able to quickly react. In order to do that, you need to be very, very efficient with what you do, right? Streamlining processes, structure around value, even leveraging process automation, data, and AI to drive efficiency, right? So we can achieve results quickly and
targeting the quick wins as well.
Absolutely. And quickly figuring out if what you think about is a good idea on the market, right? Being in a position to quickly validate your business hypothesis against the market, right?
Right.
So responsive and efficiency. Then what we really try to do is being sustainable in everything that we do, right? From an ecological point of view, from an economical point of view, that it's not a one-off thing, but really has a long-lasting impact, right? So our solutions are geared toward that.
Yeah.
And the patterns that we apply for ourselves is something that we want to bring to the client as well, right?
I see.
Then it's about creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking out of the box, leveraging new ideas, doing stuff that hasn't been done yet, right? And being bold to a certain degree.
I think Nagarro is very good at this.
Absolutely. And I mean, our former tagline, "Figure breakthroughs," pays dividends exactly towards that. So I think it's a natural evolution of what we always have been, right?
Yeah.
And the last but not least part is the intimate relationship intimacy that we have with ourselves, with our employees, with our clients, and the employees of the clients, right? So it's building the Fluidic organization around the people, around the human being.
Yes.
Making that a priority. Also with all the new tech involved, and talked about AI and process efficiency. So not ignoring the human side of things, but really making that a central point of the whole organization.
It sounds like an entire organizational transformation.
In the end, yes, of course, but I think you can start small.
Yeah.
And leverage certain patterns or principles or practices, and start with separate teams, separate departments, and do your pilots, validate which pattern fits your context, and then scale it out.
Okay, that's a good starting point then. So we'll get into that a bit more later on, because I do have some follow-up questions. Just curious though, on the topic of the Fluidic organization, how does that then differ from frameworks like SAFe or even Agile coaching models?
Yeah, I think the whole scaling, the large scaling frameworks, they're all some kind of prescriptive, right? And they give you good answers to certain problems,
right?
But not to problems that you don't know or don't know yet, right? So it's more following a sometimes rigid process and workflow. Although all these frameworks have good underlying principles and all of that, but I think companies and people quickly fall in the trap of blindly adopting the prescription, right? Without truly making efforts to understand why this approach exists, right?
Okay.
And what we do follows kind of different part. We say you need, first of all, to understand the principles behind all that, right? With everything we do, we want to be responsive, we want to be efficient, we want to be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And then finding the right pattern, the right approach to a certain problem, experiment with that, not in a negative way, but formulating a hypothesis, validating that if the pattern you've chosen is geared to solve the problem, and if yes, make it sustainable, make it a part of the process, absolutely.
Yeah.
Make it part of your process, and then formulate the next hypothesis and find the next pattern that fits your context, right? And so, I'm not saying slowly, but iteratively and incrementally evolving your organization.
It's the impression I'm getting is that it's almost like these frameworks were almost being used as like a copy and paste. And now we're moving away from that to be like, because we have very different problems now as well. So I feel like sometimes the frameworks are not so relevant given the challenges we have in this day and age. And so, like you said, formulating a hypothesis, seeing if what you've created addresses that, and then moving forward from there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And I think these frameworks can be a good starting point, but they will only take you so far, right? And none of these frameworks truly have an answer for every part of the organization. Like and mostly coming out of the IT perspective, not so much about the functional areas and the vendors and partners applied, right? Whilst we very from the beginning try to think holistically about the whole ecosystem, the whole environment, the organization.
Yeah. So you're addressing your aim is to address the whole problem or the whole challenge, and these frameworks, as I understand it, address parts of the puzzle, maybe by providing that underlying foundational setup.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And then next question. So why is Nagarro the right partner to deliver this new model?
Yeah. I think we've always been very good in eating our own dog food, right? And so it's not some theoretical concept that we try to bring to our clients, but everything that we bring here is something that we do on our own, right? And successfully do on our own. And so we have real world experience in all that regard, in all the pillars and all that methods and principles that we apply. So we can speak out of experience, out of true experience, right?
Yeah.
And we do that at scale on a global level over all continents with so many cultures.
Taking into account all of those differences.
Absolutely. And all these learnings is something that we bring to the client, right?
Yes.
So don't want to sound arrogant, but I think we can help clients no matter the size, no matter the culture, no matter the language they speak or the business they operate in, because we've seen most of that already.
Okay, that's a very bold statement. Yeah. And on that note then, have you got any kind of real life examples that you've seen where you've been able to kind of implement something that's close to fluidic organization or elements? Have you ever addressed parts of the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in retrospect, we can say that at most of our clients where we did a so-called Agile transformation in the past, we did something very similar without calling it the Fluidic Organization, right?
Okay.
So we started most of the times with using a certain framework, right, the starting point, and evolving that as we go, as we learn more about the client, about the business of the client, and how they can adopt the framework, right? And most often we started in IT, and then quickly expanding towards the business departments or to the boardrooms, right? And say, okay, in order to truly leverage the benefits of being adaptive, you just can't being stuck within IT or development, right? So the way how you fund value streams needs to change. The way how you think strategy needs to change. The way how you meet people needs to change once outcomes become way more important than output, right? And these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And most often, I think that's a very good idea. We started with a small vertical slice of the organization, right? Not just with a development team, but give us one product or give us one production line,
Line of
right?
business, yeah.
One line of business, for example, right? And do the whole thing from how you set strategy, how you fund it, how you structure your teams around the value, bringing the right tactics and tools to that particular line of business, and learn from that and enrich your approach with these learnings before scaling it to the other parts of the organization.
I see. And I'm wondering, so when you say you've in the past taken a vertical slice of a particular line of business, for example, and transformed it, have you, when you've come to like another line of business for the same organization, ever found that, okay, what we implemented initially doesn't necessarily work for this part, and now we need to switch gears again, maybe hypothesize again and go from there?
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the change management part that comes into that, right? And I talked about the relationship intimacy that we have, right?
Yeah.
So making the human being the priority, and of course, one size fits all also doesn't work here, right?
Yes.
And for us, it's way more important that the underlying principles have been understood, right? Some departments might, I don't know, for example, use metered funding as approach to innovation, whilst others would rather fund the whole value stream and make innovation part of the guardrails, how much budget they need to invest into some stuff. And that's not so important for us that they do it the same way. They just need to be compliant at the interfaces, right?
Yeah.
So at the touching points, the crossover points, they need to be aware what's the common ground that we're talking about, but how you do it then, that's not so important for us. It's more important that funding for in that particular case is done dynamically, that innovation happens, and that a certain amount of the budget is dedicated towards innovation.
Yes. Yeah.
And how you execute it, that's again context specific, right? And
Yeah, and it goes in line with the fluidic organization because you don't want to almost dictate that.
absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you want to bring authority to where the information is.
Yes.
Right? In order to be, first of all, responsive and efficient and sustainable.
Yes.
So somehow these underlying principles work, right?
I think so. I think they're a very good set of guiding principles. And my next question would be, right, so if you've got a situation where you've got two different lines of business that you've addressed now, and let's say, for example, the rest of the changes required within the organization are all there as well, how does it work when it comes to merging that all and making sure there's a level of consistency and it's coherent across the organization?
Yeah. So, I think the pattern that you would refer here to is what we call the fractal organization, right? So basically making sure that a representative of each of that line of business comes together to a so-called steering circle or steering group, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Committee, yeah.
A committee, for example, right? So just representatives of all parts of the organization that align on common ground, right? And for themselves, so self-governance and self-organization obviously is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And they together define the approach, the guardrails, read the interfaces, right? Take that back to the various parts of the organization and run it there, right?
Okay.
So you could do some kind of supervision, of course, right? And give that external input or even bring in the experts for particular topics that can help educate all these representatives, right? To find common ground on particular topics.
Yeah.
You can also say, okay, suggestions is you use this in this method or this in this approach, right? But how you really do it is more or less up to you. We just need to make sure that as you mentioned, the same level, when you come together, we need to speak the same language and provide the same kind of material and data. Yeah. So we still can have that holistic view of the whole organization.
Yeah. What you're trying to avoid here is prescribing
Absolutely
what should be done.
Absolutely.
Letting that should be more natural. It should just come to an organization.
And that again might be a huge difference compared to the huge scaling frameworks that we were in.
Yes. Okay. Makes sense. And then finally, my final question is, what signals should companies look for to actually know if they're ready for this shift to a fluidic organization?
I think every organization is ready if you start small enough.
Yeah.
So I think all it takes is finding some people who are willing to leave what they're up for now, to be open and experiment new ways of working, right? Some kind of sponsorship is also helpful, right?
Okay.
And around the first experiments, showcase that you're successful, like hitting that quick wins that you referred to early on.
Yeah.
And market that internally, right?
And
then take it from
to get that almost support.
Absolutely. The buy-in for the organization. And of course, it helps if you have top management involvement or the mandate even of top management to do that. But the suggestion always would be, think big, start small, right? Evolve on the go. And yeah,
certainly
being responsive in your approach to how it's becoming a responsive organization.
Certainly. Okay. And is there any kind of industry you would say? I mean, I know you mentioned everybody is effectively ready for this, but are there any kind of key industries in which you would say, okay, like these ones should particularly take priority for this change?
Yeah. Again, I think each industry can benefit from this principle and this approach by introducing the patterns that fit your context, right? And becoming more resilient and all of that, and making the human being a priority and being creative.
Yeah.
I think at typical industries that by design need to move fast, right? So gaming industry, for example, where you basically need to reap up new features every day, right?
Yeah.
I think for them it's even more critical than for some, how you call it, industries where you more typically deal with larger time frames, like pharma industry, for example, right? Not say that these patterns are as beneficial there, but the business need might be even more in quick turning industries.
That makes sense. Okay, so anybody who's kind of got that need to adapt very quickly would kind of benefit more so from this. Not to say that other industries would. It's just that those industries could get away with a bit of time.
True that.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much for the insights, Mika. It's definitely a different way of thinking and makes the future sound very exciting. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It was a pleasure as always.
It was.
Let's talk next time.
Yep, thank you. And that's a wrap. So thanks for listening to The Power of Agile. Remember, Agile was the beginning, Fluidic is the future. So stay adaptable, stay fluid, and we'll see you next time.